The Germans had sussed out a couple of little variations of war that they perfected. There was three inventions. I think it's probably the best that I mention all three together. The three of them were called the Unholy Trinity. And the reason being, because the three inventions of the war in 1914, by the Germans and later by the British, I'm not trying to blame the Germans. They developed three things that decimated human life on scales that you and I cannot comprehend. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. The first one was barbed wire. They produced miles, and I'm not talking hundreds of miles, I'm talking millions of miles of barbed wire. They would have them across the no man's land. You'd have a trench here, and maybe 100, 200 yards away, the Germans have a trench over there. And between it, you could get 3 or 4 strands of barbed wire, shin high, knee high, thigh high, chest high. And it would be 30 or 40 rows of that. 4 rows each, but you get 30 or 40 of them, one after the other. To get through that, you've got 2 chances, slim and none. And the barbs on the German wire it's not like the stuff you see on the farms today. Because believe it or not, today, it'd be inhumane, thank you. I think audience participation, good man. It'd be inhumane to put those barbs on cattle or sheep fences. It'd be inhumane to do that. But in 1914, they put them on fences to catch men. Now these were barbs. I've seen some of them, and they are seriously big barbs. They were that dangerous that the British wire cutters they had couldn't cut them. Someone somewhere designed a British pair of wire snips that cut British wire, and forgot to take into account that the Germans had a heavier gauge wire. So practicing on the British stuff that was lightweight was absolutely about as useful as an Astron wire. So, but these are one of the second thing by far was the invention of the machine gun. Now, I'm not going into the technicalities of weights and rates of fire and all that. The machine gun brought killing to an absolute pitch. Before, if you had 100 men, you had 100 rifles. And as fast as you could pull the bolt and put a round in and what have you, that's as fast as you could do it. If you had 100 and he had 100, it was how accurate and how quick your lads were and how professional they were. They didn't buckle. They held and they'd fire and they'd outshoot them, and they had a lot more muscle about them, a lot more nerve. You hold your nerve, keep firing, and just keep going until you waste as many of them as you can. That was the name of the game. The machine gun stopped all that. The machine gun fired 800-900 rounds a minute. It was a belt fed, which meant that as you pulled the trigger, you held it. A guy beside you fed a belt full of bullets from a very big box and just kept feeding them into you. And all you had to do was just literally point the gun across the field, and as the men came across, it was just cannon fodder, and it was an absolute slaughter. To give you an example of what I'm talking about. Oh, the other one, later on, was gas. A.G. Farber had an exceptional, successful development of a thing called phosgene gas. You and I have probably heard about it in TV as mustard gas. Now, phosgene gas, it forms a spray. It's not fog, it's not smoke. This comes out of spray, moisture. Have you ever been in a bathroom and you get steam on a mirror and there's condensation and steam, right? Oh, we all have, yeah. Right. So, but this was something similar. It was vapor, and it came into your uniform and soaked it. It's like walking through a mist of a wet fog. It went into your clothes. It turned the brass buttons green. It was that corrosive. It was toxic, extremely toxic. The idea was it would lodge in your larynx, in your throat, and your chest, and burn you from the inside out. And anything that you used, lungs, tongue, thorax, anything, just came, literally just rotted away. There was no cure for it. There was no cure. There was no pill or no injection. Penicillin didn't come into it until the latter end of the war into the 20s, and it didn't become available in serious numbers until the Second World War. So you had 2 chances. If gas came, it was mustard coloured. That's why they call it mustard gas. It come down the trenches, down the field like a fog,